Hi AP. In today's video, we're going to talk about the AP Music Theory exam format, and I'm going to help you with some tips and strategies for the free response questions. So the entire exam is approximately 2 hours and 40 minutes. There are two sections. Section 1 is your multiple choice section, which consists of approximately 75 questions. It will take an hour and 20 minutes to complete, and this part of the exam is 45% of your overall score. There are two types of multiple choice questions on the exam. There are questions based on oral stimulus, which test your listening skills and knowledge about theory, largely in the context of examples from actual musical scores. Some questions will cover oral skills, including melodic dictation and identification of isolated pitch and rhythmic patterns, while others may test your skill in score analysis. Questions based on analysis of printed music scores emphasize knowledge of score analysis, including small-scale and large-scale harmonic procedures, melodic organization and developmental procedures, rhythmic and metric organization, texture, and formal devices or procedures. You may also see questions about musical terminology, notational skills, and basic compositional skills. Section 2 of the AP exam is the free response section. You have 7 written questions plus 2 sight singing exercises. Section 2 is also an hour and 20 minutes and is 55% of your overall score. The written portion will be 1 hour and 10 minutes, which involves 4 questions on dictation, 2 part writing questions, and 1 question on composition of a bass line. The sight singing portion will take 10 minutes, where you will sing and record 2 brief, primarily diatonic melodies of about 4 to 8 bars. You'll have 75 seconds to examine and practice each melody and 30 seconds to perform it. You may sing the melody beginning with the given starting pitch or another pitch in a range that is more comfortable. The multiple choice section is 45% of the total score. The first half of the multiple choice section consists of questions based on oral stimuli. The second half covers non-oral score reading and analytical skills. Questions based on oral stimulus. These questions include both individual items and question sets that refer to oral examples taken from musical literature and other performed musical material. Repertoire examples are mainly from Western art music, but include music selected from a broad spectrum of genres, including jazz, popular, and world music performances. The discrete oral questions assess skills in identifying rhythmic and pitch patterns. For the oral sets, students listen to excerpts from music literature and, through oral analysis, make determinations on a variety of topics, including melodic organization, involving scales, modes, melodic devices, intervallic relationships, and contour. Harmonic organization, including chord function and progression, chord equality and inversion. Tonal organization, involving cadence types, key organization, and modulation. Instrumentation. Texture. Formal procedures. Questions not based on an oral stimulus. Some of the non-oral multiple choice questions are discrete questions that assess understanding of concepts such as terms, intervals, triads, seventh chords, scales, modes, melodic construction, rhythm, meter, key signatures, texture, harmonic function, and cadences. Most of the non-oral questions are organized in sets that involve analysis of excerpts of printed musical scores. In these sets, students can be asked to identify harmonic procedures, such as cadence types, Roman numerals and figured bass analysis, non-harmonic tones, triads and seventh chords, secondary dominant function, key centers, key relationships, and modulation. Melodic procedures involving scales, modes, and motivic relationships. Rhythmic and metric organization involving meter type, beat subdivision, rhythmic devices, and procedures. Hemiola. Texture, homophonic, polyphonic, monophonic, heterophonic. Formal devices and procedures, phrase structure, small forms. One set of questions will focus on error detection, assessing a student's ability to determine voice-leading errors in a 4-part homophonic texture. For the free response questions, which is 45% of the total score, the Music Theory Development Committee values music reading fluency in all clefs, modalities, and meter types. So free response questions 1 through 4 are designed to assess dictation skills, sampling both treble and bass clefs, major and minor modes, and simple and compound meters. Free response 1 and 2 are melodic dictation exercises. The melodies are performed by an instrumentalist or vocalist and are repeated several times. Each exercise is approximately 4 measures in length in 4/4 or 6/8 meter, or 8 measures in length in 3/4 or 3/8 meter. Free response 1 is designed to be less difficult than free response 2. Generally, one melody is in major and the other in minor. One melody is in simple and the other in compound. Typically, one melody is notated in treble clef and the other in bass. Free response questions 3 and 4 are harmonic dictation exercises. Each harmonic progression is played 4 times. Students notate only the soprano and bass pitches and write the appropriate Roman and Arabic numerals to designate chord functions and inversions. Free response 3 is designed to be less difficult than free response 4. Progressions are usually 8 to 11 chords in length. Generally, one example is in a major key and the other is in a minor key. Rhythms are not a factor in harmonic dictations. Secondary dominant chords are included. Free response questions 5 through 7 assess students' written skills. Free response 5 is a figured bass part writing question. The bass line with figured bass symbols and the first chord are given. Students complete the soprano, alto, and tenor voices, following traditional 18th century voice leading procedures. Students also supply Roman numerals in the spaces provided below each chord. Suspensions, secondary dominant chords, secondary leading tone chords, and the linear figure 8/7 may be included. Free response 6 is a part writing question using Roman numerals. Roman numerals with inversions and the first chord are given. Students complete the soprano, alto, tenor, and bass voices following traditional 18th century voice leading procedures. Suspensions, secondary dominant chords, secondary leading tone chords, and the linear figure 8/7 may be included. Free response 7 is a melody harmonization. This question is usually in common time and is typically comprised of 4 2-measure phrases totaling 8 measures. A melody is given, and a bass line and corresponding Roman numerals are provided through the first 3 measures as an example for students. Students complete the bass line for the remaining 5 measures. Students must also include Roman numerals and inversion symbols to indicate the harmonic progression implied by their bass line. Students will need to apply their understanding of secondary function chords and/or modulation to successfully complete this exercise. Sight singing questions, worth 10% of the total score. Students record their sight singing performance of 2 melodies. The melodies are comparable in character, meter, mode, length, and difficulty to the melodic dictation melodies. In schools where all students are tested in one room, students are ushered to another area, either before or after the multiple choice and free response portions of the exam. They are then individually invited into a separate room with a sight singing proctor. Students are given the starting pitch and have 75 seconds to practice each melody. They then have 30 seconds to perform and record it. Answering the multiple choice questions. This is a timed exam consisting of approximately 75 to 80 questions. Each question has 4 possible responses, and you are asked to choose the correct answer. Be careful to look at terms within the questions very carefully. You will see wording such as all of the following except, includes, most likely, best fits, ends with or begins with, lengthened by, outside voices, only, as in listened for the rhythm only. Read the questions twice. Underline or circle important words, especially except and only. Beginning with the May 2011 exam, there is no penalty for wrong answers on the multiple choice section, so you should answer all multiple choice questions. Since there is no deduction for an incorrect answer, even if you have no clue, take a chance and guess. Answering the free response questions. These questions are also timed. Free response 1, melodic dictation. This example will be played 3 times. There's a 30-second pause, then a 60-second pause following the subsequent playings. Free response question 2, also melodic dictation. Only this example will be played 4 times, with a 30-second pause and then 60-second pause following the subsequent playings. Melodic dictation tips. It's not about knowing everything. The teachers and evaluators want you to demonstrate what you know. So have a plan. The music will tell you so much to help you prepare. What is given? Well, for melodic dictation, the clef is given, as is the time signature, the number of measures, and the first pitch. So with all of that given information, you can figure out the key, the probable last note, and a possible half cadence in the middle. Clef, clef, clef. If you make the mistake of overlooking your clef, your entire melody could possibly go wrong. That holds true for sight singing as well. Write down the key in big letters somewhere on the paper. What pitches are connected to what solfege or numbers? Write it down somewhere. Use your time to prepare your brain for what might occur. Anticipate. Note for melodic dictation that the last note is always do, so pencil in the pitch. But remember, it could be high or low. Know your time signature. That will give you a clue to the duration of the last note. Is there an anacrusis? If so, that usually tells you 2 things. The most common anacrusis is sol to do, so the downbeat most likely will be do. If there's an anacrusis, you must also consider the change in the duration of the last measure. It will be incomplete. Are you in minor? That means a leading tone. A melodic dictation in minor will always have at least one leading tone that requires you writing an accidental. Are you in compound meter? One of the examples will usually be in 6/8 time. Beam appropriately. What about the possibility of a chromatic note? It could occur, just like in harmonic dictation or harmonizing a melody and sight singing. The most common chromatic alterations include scale degree 4, which goes up to Fe, or scale degree 5, which can go up to C, and sometimes scale degree 1, which could be raised up to D. By far, the most common pattern is Fa, Fe, Sol, or Sol, Fe, Sol. How do melodies begin? 2 most common are Do, Re, Mi, and Do, Mi, Sol, in both major and minor. One more common minor beginning and ending is Do, Ti, Do, and recall that that would require an accidental. So how do melodies end? Well, they are heading home. These are possibilities for endings of melodies: Mi, Re, Do, or Sol, Fa, Mi, Re, Do, Do, Ti, Do, Do, Re, Do, Re, Ti, Do, Ti, Re, Do, or the tritone Fa, Ti, Do, sol-ti-do, or mi-ti-do. What's in the middle of melodic dictation? It's not so easy. What can you expect? Well, mostly stepwise motion with one or two skips or leaps. There's most likely going to be a half cadence right at the middle, but remember that a half cadence doesn't always occur at the very end of a measure. A half cadence could occur prior to the last beat in the measure, and the next phrase could begin with an anacrusis. Most dictations are symmetrical, meaning balanced into two equal halves. Try to sing the melody to yourself internally and listen for patterns. Don't be afraid to use the back door. Focus on the first two measures, leave the middle blank, and come back in toward the end. Work backward from what you know to find what you don't know. When you are done knowing, guess. With that said, make logical guesses and check the number of beats per measure. Fact: in the last 10 years, 19 out of 20 melodic dictation exercises have implied a half cadence near the middle of the example, and 18 out of 20 melodic dictation exercises followed the implied half cadence with an anacrusis leading into the next phrase. 20 out of 20 melodic dictation exercises have ended on do. Answering the free response questions. These questions are also timed. Free response question 3, harmonic dictation. This example will be played 4 times, with a 30-second pause, then 60-second pause following the subsequent playings. Free response question 4, harmonic dictation as well. This example will also be played 4 times, with a 30-second pause, then 60-second pause following the subsequent playings. Harmonic dictation tips. See the given information. The key will be given. Write a chord menu. Writing a chord menu is beneficial so you don't have to think about what notes go with which chords while trying to hear, identify, and notate. There are 2 methods to achieve the most success for harmonic dictation. Choose one. Here's method 1. Method 1 is hearing vertically, identifying the function and quality of chords first, and then confirming with the bass and soprano line. During the first playing, listen for chunks of the phrase for familiar patterns, top to bottom, and identify and notate the cadence, which is most likely in root position and will not be anything out of the ordinary. During the second playing, listen to the bass line to confirm the chord quality and inversion. Notate the bass line. During the third playing, listen to the soprano. Expect contrary motion to that of the bass. Notate as much of the soprano line as possible. Listen for dissonance, which may indicate a 7th chord. During the fourth playing, listen specifically for what you have left blank. Review and check your work. Method 2 is the linear method. Listen for the bass line first and then the soprano as separate lines and logically determine the chord symbols or the implied harmony based on the counterpoint. Most students see method 2 as the preferred method unless they are a pianist. During the first playing of the linear method, listen to the bass line. Try to sing them in our head right after you hear it. Assign solfege pitches while doing this. Solfege helps you with the placement of the notes within the scale and also implies harmony, whether it's root position or inversion. Identify and notate the cadence. During the second playing, listen to the soprano. Notice the shape or contour of the soprano compared to the bass. It's most likely contrary motion. The melody will be mostly stepwise, with some skips, while the bass tends to be more disjunct. Notate as much of the melody as you can and fill in Roman numerals and symbols you've already identified. During the third playing, listen vertically for the chord quality. Remember, the progression usually returns to tonic on the third or fourth chord, and that you may hear 5-1 in places other than just the cadence. Listen for dissonance that may indicate a seventh chord. During the fourth playing, listen specifically for what you have left blank. Review and check your work. Do not leave any blanks. Make note of what you can positively identify and write a reminder in the margin or near the answer blank. When in doubt, make educated guesses. Ask yourself, does your progression move in tonic, subdominant, dominant, tonic fashion? 4-7-3-6-2-5-1. It should. Check for retrogression and avoid it. Ask yourself, have you written parallel fifths or octaves between the soprano and bass? If so, one or possibly both are wrong. If you change your bass, remember that you also must change your chord symbol. Additional things to consider for harmonic dictation. Is the last note the correct value? Have you used stems and filled in the note heads where necessary? The perfect authentic cadence is used most often, and the most common PAC is 1-6-4-5-1 for both major and minor. In the perfect authentic cadence, the 5-7 is used more often than just 5. To avoid running out of time, use the facing page of staff paper for writing the chord menus and for scratch paper only. Do all your work on the question page. If you do use the staff paper, remember to allow yourself enough time to transfer the information to the question page. After free response questions 1 and 2 involving melodic dictation and 3 and 4 comprised of harmonic dictation, you will then be allowed 45 minutes to complete the next 3 non-oral questions in any order you choose. Free response 5 is the figured bass realization. The suggested time is 10 minutes. Free response 6 is part writing to the Roman numeral. Suggested time is 15 minutes. Free response 7 is harmonizing a melody. The suggested time is 20 minutes. In the test booklet, these questions are printed on the left side with a page of staff paper on the right side to use as scratch paper. Make sure your final answer is on the left side answer page and not on the staff paper. Use a pencil. At this point, you're almost done with the exam. The last portion of the exam is sight singing. There will be 2 sight singing examples. One will be in major and one will be in minor. Determine this immediately. One will be in treble clef and the other in bass clef. Observe immediately. One will be in simple meter and one in compound. Also observe immediately. The first pitch will be sounded. At that point, you have 75 seconds to look over the music, practice singing the example, after which the practice period ends. Your performance will be recorded in under 30 seconds. Here are some sight singing tips. Do not, under any circumstance, stop and start over. Sing confidently and clearly. You may use any form of syllables or numbers, or simply sing la la. You may bring in a pencil and mark on the music if you desire. The biggest mistake is not singing out loud during the allotted practice time. Let's talk a little bit about scoring. So for section 1 multiple choice, recall that there is no point deduction for incorrect responses, so you are encouraged to answer all multiple choice questions. It's important to know that weights are applied to the oral and non-oral score portion of the multiple choice. The weights are determined such that both the oral and non-oral scores each contribute 22.5% to the composite score. The weighted maximum possible score on section 1 is 90 points, and it accounts for 45% of the maximum composite score. Let's talk about scoring for section 2 free response. Your melodic dictation questions 1 and 2 together are 18 points, 9 each. 1 point for each correct half measure segment in both pitch and rhythm, plus 1 point added when at least one segment, which is any one half measure, is correct. Note that no inharmonic equivalents are permitted, plus your notation must correctly place accidentals and dots and use stems, flags, or beams. Harmonic dictation. Both questions 3 and questions 4 together total 48 points, 24 points for each question. For harmonic dictation, 16 points are awarded for correct pitches. Correct chord symbols with both Roman and Arabic numerals are 8 points. Note that inharmonic equivalents are not permitted and rhythmic duration is not considered. For sight singing, there are 2 questions, 9 points each, both totaling 18 points. 1 point is awarded for every half measure that is correct in pitch and rhythm, including consistent tempo, and 1 point is added for no hesitation or stopping. Part writing from figured bass. Free response question 5 is out of 25 points. Correct Roman and Arabic numeral chord symbols are 7 points, 1 point each. Chord spelling is 6 points, 1 point each, and your voice leading is 12 points, 2 points per connection between chords. Free response question 6, part writing to Roman numeral. This is worth 18 points. Chord spelling would be 6 points, 1 point each, and your voice leading would be 12 points, 2 points per connection between chords. For free response question 7, harmonizing a melody, also known as composition of a bass line, is worth 9 points total. Bass line and harmonies are awarded points by phrase. Phrase 2 equals 2 points, phrases 3 and 4 equal 3 points each, plus 1 point for being consistently accurate or aesthetically musical. It is important to note that on the actual AP Music Theory exam, not all questions are weighted the same. Calculating the composite score of the exam remains fairly standardized from year to year, and questions are weighted according to difficulty. Here is a table showing the oral portions and the non-oral portions of the exam. Most students do not achieve consistently on all sections of the exam. Some may score 35% accuracy on the oral multiple choice, but 68% accuracy on non-oral, or score 55% accuracy on the melodic dictation, but only 15% accuracy on sight singing. Remember that the subscores calculate oral and non-oral to create the composite score. If your goal is a passing composite score of 3, then you are looking for approximately 45% accuracy on all parts of the exam. So now we're back to this page, and if you look at the bottom, we have the oral subtotal plus the non-oral subtotal would equal your weighted section 2 score. And if we page down, we can figure out the composite score by taking the weighted section 1 score plus the weighted section 2 score for a composite score overall exam. We then take the multiple choice oral subscore plus the free response oral subscore, which would equal your oral subscore. We then take the multiple choice non-oral subtotal plus the free response non-oral subscore, which would equal the non-oral subscore. Over to the left is an AP score conversion chart for music theory, but it's really important to note that the score range corresponding to each grade varies from exam to exam, so this is approximate only. And that's a little bit on how the AP exam is scored. Okay, AP, 4 things that you must know above everything else. Number 1, vocabulary. Most of the multiple choice questions require you to know the basic terms of our musical language. Study and review your terms from any handouts you have received. Number 2, know your fundamentals. Fundamentals are universally important in any field, and music theory is no exception. The two areas of significant importance are key signatures and relationships, and intervals. Even these two areas are codependent. Build your knowledge on a solid foundation of these two areas, and everything else that follows will be easier. 3. Know your part writing. Part writing involves knowledge of many concepts rolled into one. These concepts include chord spelling, inversions, Roman numerals, harmonic progression, resolutions, cadences, non-chord tones. The single largest component of part writing is correct chord spelling. Number 4, connect the dots. See the music, identify it and understand it. Perform what you see. Hear the music, identify it and understand it. Notate what you hear. The bigger picture is to recognize that when you part write, you are creating a progression that is comparable to what you will hear in harmonic dictation. What you sing in the sight singing portion of the exam is comparable to what you will hear and have to notate in the melodic dictation. The information overlaps. This is a great website, Exam Owl, that I'm going to click on and show you what you can do. So this is Exam Owl for music theory, and we can play around with some numbers and scores. These are all the different parts to the exam with the point totals, and you can adjust accordingly as to what you think your strengths and weaknesses might be to come up with a predicted AP score. There's melodic dictation, harmonic dictation. Let's go down this way a little bit. And as you move it, the numbers change. Part writing, you guys are really strong at. And you could look over here and you can see what your predicted AP scores would be. So I encourage you to explore this website. This is Exam Owl, and I'll put the website up again for you. You can copy that down. And I think I will leave you with this.